Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Economic Empowerment Podcast. Again, this is another paper that I have listened in a seminar of the paper sharing today, which answers the question of are all ESG funds created equal? So, so growing investor interest in sustainability in 2021, which around $70 billion is put into the sustainable funds. And this paper basically answered to what extent does these funds matter and what impact did it have? So like depends on whether or not fund managers view ESG as a value driver. And also depends on fund managers' incentive to engage with portfolio firms. So how do we categorize ESG firms? So of course, what's an ESG firm is. Again, I'll just reiterate this concept one more time: environmental, societal, and governance fund. And within that, there are some that is committed to ESG, and that some are basically just in it for the money. So it's split it into committed and uncommitted ones, which I think is a really great point. And then because there's asset weighted ESG scores. So here's a couple predictions and conclusions that I've found, and through a lot of data, and you guys can find this online to look at the paper. And the first is that committed ESG funds are less likely to sell after ESG incidents, and committed funds are more likely to engage with firms. And another prediction is committed funds will have greater impact due to greater information acquisition, long-term investment policies, and engagement. And committed ESG funds cost improvements in firms' ESG. These all make sense because committed ESG funds care way more about information within the ESG field, so they'll seek out different information, which they'll have another edge to those non-committed ones. Thus, they're seeing this result. And of course, the committed ESG funds basically cost improvements in ESG because basically they give you the fund to just make you focus more on sustainable development. So of course, the firm is going to adjust to that behavior. And this study has plenty of data into analysis, and committed funds are doing better than other, non-committed ESG funds, which brings me to an entrepreneurship point, is that don't just go in it for the sole purpose of earning some profit, because I think we as people should not be limited by that. I think we should see further about the impact rather than, just do it for a short-term investment, because a lot of ESG firms are doing it for short-term investment instead of focusing on the long run. So, also talking about diversified portfolios of dirty and clean investments are too highly correlated, and thus are like two good substitutes as well. So this study to me is really interesting because I think it's quite inspiring for a lot of entrepreneurs when they're starting out a company, like I mentioned before, that it is extremely important that they have the goal of societal sustainable development in mind, because there is a positive externality there for sustainable development economically. And I just think people should put more emphasis on the impact rather than money. And as we can see here, when you focus on the impact, you're doing better than those non-committed ones. So to me, this is just an automatic, lesson to learn, especially if you are going into investment and stuff like that. Looking at the impact and not just a short-term profit increase or decrease, because as I mentioned in the previous video, the ESGs are actually, after they implemented the sustainable development, their profit is actually going down, but the thing that's going up is the valuation, which is a long-term thing. So you have to be in it for the long term. I think that's the most important takeaway of this paper. Thank you so much and see you in the next episode.